One thing that's confused me about the UFC is the fact that the UFC rarely goes out of their way to visit new countries, right? Like, how many times are we going to go to Abu Dhabi, Mexico, France, or hell, even the UK now? Like, I do have fun watching those cards, but it feels kind of boring at times because we're going to the same places over and over again. And considering that we have talent from all over the world, I feel like the UFC should be more interested in visiting other places, not just the same four every single year. All right, but that's where we're going to be highlighting today. There's a lot of countries that the UFC should be visiting because there's a lot of great talent from the countries that I'm going to be talking about. So without wasting any more time, here are 5 countries that the UFC need to visit within the next couple of years. Okay, so at number 1, I got Georgia. This one should not come as a surprise to anybody. Like the fact that Merab Dvalishvili and Ilia Topuria, 2 of the pound-for-pound best fighters on the roster, are from this country. That alone should be a reason as to why the UFC should visit Georgia. But the other reason being that it's very close in proximity to Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey, as well as other Middle Eastern countries, right? And let's just say the UFC is heavily invested in building up talent from these countries. So I feel like it's in the UFC's best interest to visit Georgia. I understand that the war in the Middle East is going on right now, but once it starts to die down a little bit, why doesn't the UFC go to Georgia? And especially when Arman Tsarukyan fights Ilia Topuria for the lightweight belt, I think that would be the perfect opportunity for the UFC to capitalize on in order to visit Georgia and try to build up a brand new fan base there. So I really hope that the UFC visits Georgia sometime within the next year or so. Again, preferably when Arman Tsarukyan fights Ilia Topuria. But knowing the UFC, they're probably going to put it in like a Los Angeles card and say, oh my gosh, there's a battle between Georgia and Armenia. Like, bro, like we wanted this in Georgia in person, but unfortunately the UFC is going to be lazy and they're not really going to do anything nice for us for once. At number 2, I got Nigeria. All right, it's actually a miracle that we haven't visited this country yet, especially when Kamaru Usman and Israel Adesanya were at their peak. And yes, I do trash them a lot, but at the same time, though, they have done a lot of great things for the sport. And I feel like the UFC have time and time again squandered their opportunities to build an event in Africa, let alone in Nigeria. And I feel like if we host an event in Nigeria and have Kamaru Usman and Israel Adesanya go in a fight night, it's a good way for the UFC to scout out African talent, right? Because the UFC, they keep on saying that, oh, we're going to go to Africa. We're going to go to Africa. They never really do it.
It will happen before I retire. 2 things will happen before I retire. We will do a fight, at least one fight in Africa, and there will be a PI in Africa before I'm done here.
Stop the cap.
So I really do hope that the UFC can at least go to Nigeria and try to scout out more African talent there, because it could be very interesting to say the least. But either way, though, I feel like it's in the best interest of the UFC to visit Africa, but because they haven't done this for so long, I'm not expecting them to visit Nigeria anytime soon. But I really hope they do. At number 3, I got Spain. Ilia Topuria is the current champ at lightweight. It's a miracle as to how we haven't gotten a main event in Spain over the course of 2 years since Ilia Topuria became the featherweight champion. But either way, though, like the UFC should really visit Spain. A lot of fans have been asking for this for the longest time. Hell, you even got commentators like Joe Rogan asking, yo, when are we going to Spain? Right? It feels like the UFC, Dana White especially, is being lazy at the moment and not trying to venture out into new countries when we had an opportunity like this right in front of our eyes. But yeah, I really do hope before Ilia Topuria retires that we get an event in Spain. Right, because that would be hype. You can also bring in a lot of Spanish talent there. Like, I know the UFC's been trying to scout out Spanish and Portuguese talent for quite a while now. So I think this is a good opportunity to do so if you host an event in Spain. So hopefully the UFC, they don't just go to the same places over and over again and can actually host an event in Spain like they promised us since 2024. And I think that would be very hype because we've been talking about this for quite some time, but unfortunately, for some reason, it's never come to fruition. At number 4, I got Japan. Now, I'm gonna be real. I'm actually shocked that the UFC have not tried to go out of their way to visit Japan. Right, and it's for two reasons. First off, a lot of top flyweight prospects at the moment are from Japan. We got Tatsuro Taira, we got Rei Tsuruya, we got Kyoji Horiguchi, we even have Kaya Sakura who moved up to bantamweight. Like, there's a lot of well-known Japanese fighters that are fighting in the UFC at the moment. But second off, a lot of fighters came from Rizin, all right, one of the best organizations in Japanese MMA, and it's easily recognizable by the fans. We got Yuri Prohaska, former light heavyweight champion who fought out of Rizin. We got Manel Cape, who's like number 2 in the flyweight division right now. He originally fought from Rizin. Kyoji Horiguchi also fought in Rizin for an extended part of his career. Like, I'm actually shocked that the UFC does not take chances in trying to visit countries like Japan, because the structure is there. They've been talking about going to Japan for the longest time, but it just feels like the UFC never really falls through on their promises. And unfortunately, that's kind of the main theme of this video, all right? Like, a lot of countries that the UFC keep on telling the fans that they're going to visit over and over again, but in the end, they don't really do that because, I don't know, Dana White's just a pathological liar. And last but not least, we got South Korea. Now, I'm not just saying this because I'm Korean myself, but I genuinely do believe that there's opportunities for the UFC if they visit South Korea, right? The sport of mixed martial arts is getting more popular every single day. We got guys like TKZ, who's running his regional promotion, coaching a lot of talented fighters coming out of South Korea. He's also doing a very good job of filming content with fighters like Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway. We also have a lot of upcoming talent from South Korea, like Ju Sang-yu, Ko Seok-hyun, Do Choi, Hyun Sung Park. I know some of these guys have been around for a while, but still, though, like, my point still stands. Like, there's a lot of talent from South Korea that could potentially make it into the rankings at some point. And there's a lot of opportunities for a lot of Asian talent to get into the UFC. It's kind of been historically known that Asian fighters, they don't particularly do very well outside of the regional scene in Asia. And I feel like this is kind of an excuse for the UFC to put on more random Asian fighters that you'd never heard of in order to fill up these cards. So I feel like all of these are good reasons as to why the UFC can visit South Korea. Now, do I expect this? Probably not. Again, Dana White is incredibly lazy, to say the least. But I do really hope that before I retire from this channel, I want to see the UFC visit South Korea at least one time, because I think that would be sick, to say the least. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. If you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe so we can monetize this channel. But leave your comments down below what you guys think about this list, as well as any other countries that you hope the UFC visit. But otherwise, though, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.